Hey nerds, we are talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. We're going to review it and then maybe break down a little bit of it, starting now. Welcome to the Nerd Social. I'm Nathan.
And I'm Colin.
Hey, so we're doing another live stream just to get this out to you quickly because we have a large editing backlog. So the spoiler-free log line provided to me by IMDb because we have a less of a relationship with Paramount Pictures than we have with the Paramount Television. The film follows the Turtle Brothers as they work to earn the love of New York City while facing down an army of mutants. So, Colin, what did you think of the movie?
So a little bit of background. I grew up with Ninja Turtles. I think that Ninja Turtle fandom was like at its height in the late 80s with the original cartoon, as well as the movies, the two movies, live action movies that came out in the early 90s. So I was really into Ninja Rap and all that other stuff. So having said all that, I think that every single iteration since the early 90s Turtles has been almost like a revisit of certain things, and then of like trying to revisit here and there and this thing and that thing. And I think that for me it's just, I just have to accept the fact that it's a new generation. It is just going to be a new generation of ideas, characters, how they're going to approach the story, with some respect to the source material that was provided by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, who, by the way, are actually from Massachusetts. If you look at the background of the creators, I think Netflix has a really good The Toys That Made Us did a whole thing on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Check that out. It's really, really good. If you're really nostalgic around, if you were a fan back in the day when you were like 9 or 10 years old when it first came out. So yeah, so I, giving that background, that's my background on it, and I think that to me, this movie was pretty good. I think that it did hit on some things, and then some things I'm just like, this is a little bit beyond me because I'm not of that generation, especially with the turtles interacting with each other. But at the same time, I think I did enjoy it. The plot itself, if you watched another Ninja Turtles property, it's the same plot, but I'm not gonna. I won't get into that. But again, it's very enjoyable. I really did like it. Pleasantly surprised because when I first saw the trailer, I was like, no, I don't want to see this. I'm not interested. It's going to be like the Michael Bay films. I'm not interested at all, or the 2010 computer animated version. I'm not interested, but pleasantly surprised. So overall, I would say it's okay. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I think I'm like you. It's so weird that such a weird. It's so interesting rather that it's such a weird concept that's endured for like
Mm,
30 plus years. Teenage
yeah.
Mutant Ninja Turtles. They've had so many iterations of this
Oh
on
yes.
TV and also in movies. You mentioned the Michael Bay films, which I think I watched the first one, and then Michael Bay is going to do what Michael Bay does. And I'm not. Yeah, those movies are a bit of a mess and ridiculous, and also make the turtles look super ugly.
Mm,
So, but yeah, I like this movie quite a bit actually. It's not the one that I grew up with, but I've seen a lot of spin-offs because they keep
yeah.
rebooting it on television. I think I like this one better than most of the spin-offs. It's not like I'm a super hardcore turtle person in that after I like follow and I watch all the episodes of all the spin-offs. I've seen some of them. I've seen a couple episodes of some of them, and some of them actually are really interesting in where they go, especially the science fiction stuff. They go even deeper into the science fiction stuff than the
Mm,
90s the 90s 80s shows that we grew up with.
yeah.
I like this one for a couple reasons. I understand what you're saying. The it is the cast of turtles actually are teenagers, which is
Hmm.
actually a pretty, I think was a good choice. But which means that they're also using teenage slang, which some of it
Yeah.
goes over my head. Some of it I know because I mean I teach kids around this age, and also
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
watched a featurette where they went over some of the things. So like I some of it it was just fine. I figured out what they were talking about from context as well sometimes as well. So that I think that was good. I actually liked the spin that they went on. They did with April O'Neil because
Mm,
usually she's like in her early 20s. And in this movie,
yeah.
she's around the same age as they are, so she's a teenager as
Mm,
well. I like that change. The voice cast was actually pretty good. So we have don't have a whole lot of screenshots because they don't have a lot of screenshots online, but they this you won't necessarily know the main characters because, like I said, they're just teenage actors, and this might be the biggest gig that they have. But yeah, we have Leo, we have Mikey. I also like the character designs as well. They
mm,
sometimes, depending on the show, they all look exactly the same, which is what the '90s show did.
yep.
And I appreciate when they make them look a little bit different.
Yep.
Especially since like especially Raphael, who like is the bruiser. He should look a bit larger because he's usually the one like lifting weights and things like that. So
Hmm.
um,
I do want to say one thing about the turtle design, the turtle colors. They actually are very similar to the original action figures
yeah,
that were
yeah.
out. So the coloration, the
Hmm.
different hues of green matches in some ways to the toys themselves. So
Yeah.
that was a really nice touch. I definitely have to say kudos to them for doing that.
Yeah, they definitely look a lot like the action figures, and I'm sure this is, of course, this movie is just meant to sell toys because this movie, unlike I guess the Michael Bay movies, I can see kids actually enjoying this movie
Hmm.
and watching this over and over again. And actually, I mean, they're the 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 character designs, but also the animation in general in this movie is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It definitely has some influences from into into the Spider Verse.
Yes, it does.
It's not exactly the same.
Yeah.
But I feel like Into the Spider Verse allowed everyone or gave everyone permission to experiment because the new Puss in Boots movie, this movie, it's not trying to do the exact same thing, but they're trying to be more creative with the animation than they have been than studios have been over the last 20 years. Into the Spider
Hmm.
Verse just gave everyone permission to just experiment, and this doesn't look like Into the Spider Verse exactly, but it does have its own weird aesthetic where it actually looks like
Yeah.
it definitely looks like if if you have seen the original like street comics, the black and white street comics,
Hmm. Yeah.
it kind of looks like that basically,
Yes, it does.
but colorized.
Yeah.
So that's the aesthetic they were going for there. All the adult voice actors also do a great job here. Jackie Chan as Splinter. They do a bit of a twist on his backstory here. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't know about that one, but
I feel
okay,
I feel
I'll
like
give it to him. I give it to him.
we can
But
talk we can talk about that in a little bit when we break it
yeah,
down a little. But his backstory is a little bit changed here. But Jackie Chan
yeah,
does a good job here. I think as
yeah.
Splinter. Ayo Edebiri, who is in The Bear, that show
Oh,
on which she is the main character there. I think she also took over for she took over in Big Mouth
oh,
as the black character because that was being voiced by a white woman. I forget who it was off the top of my head.
that's one of Ali Wong's things, right? I
Yeah.
think it was Ali Wong. Yeah. Um,
So she does a good job as well as April, and as I said, they have her instead of a few years older than the teenager. She's a teenager as well in this movie. Um,
yeah.
Giancarlo Esposito does the thing that Giancarlo Esposito is always good at doing. He was
Oh,
great.
yeah.
Ice Cube plays Superfly. Maya Rudolph plays Cynthia Utrom.
It's kind of
This
like
is
their Amanda Waller ripoff. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
kind
That's
of
funny.
sort of.
Yeah.
Although I think I think I think they went deep cut on this though. Like I've seen, this has been more, all these mutants that actually show up in this movie, they showed up in the comic books definitely, and they eventually, and some of them showed up on the like the '90s show, but not all of them. Like so, like
no, not all of them. Definitely
these are deep cut references. So I don't think this is an Amanda Waller knockoff. It's an Amanda Waller knockoff from the comics, which was like an Amanda Waller. I think it's from the '70s. So maybe when the comics were written, maybe they were was an homage or a similar character.
Yeah.
This character doesn't really speak, so it just assists himself. John Cena is Rocksteady. Then we have Mondo, Gecko, Paul Rudd.
He was actually a toy that I really wanted. I really wanted this toy back in the day. Yeah. I don't think he appeared in the original series, but he definitely was one of those toys I wanted to get. Yeah.
It's so funny at the end of the movie they have introducing Paul Rudd. Everyone else is just a regular thing. It's introducing Paul Rudd. I think that's definitely the Seth Rogen sensibility in this movie. And it's honestly, and when we get to the rating, his sensibility is probably what dips it down a little bit for me, because there's like some gross out stuff. Like he's our age now, but he's never really grown up. And there's some stuff like that I think he didn't write this. I actually forgot to go through the director and the writer. So the director of this is Jeff Rowe, screenplay by Kevin Eastman, Peter Laird, and Brandon O'Brien, but he is one of the executive producers. I'm not sure what happened at your screening, but at the front of my screening, it actually had Seth Rogen saying thanks for coming out and watching the movie. So yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So he basically is the figurehead of the whole thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wingnut, Natasia Demetriou. I'm not sure who this person is. I'd have to IMDb her.
Not really sure either.
Post Malone played Ray Fillet.
He was hilarious. He's pretty hilarious, I would have to say.
Yeah. Hannibal Buress played Genghis Frog. They made it make a little bit of fun about his name, and then Rose Byrne played Leatherhead. Yeah,
that's interesting. So I did not think that was Rose Byrne. Wow.
I didn't know it was Rose Byrne either, but I think Seth Rogen and Rose Byrne like to work together. They just finished a show called Platonic, about two adult friends on Apple TV Plus. So I think they like working together. Seth Rogen as Bebop. So yeah, there's a lot of people in this cast. Besides the main four turtles. So I think it's a very well put together movie. It's actually, I liked it quite a bit. It's not Into the Spider-Verse. It's not Across the Spider-Verse in quality or depth. Yeah. But it's fun. It's a fun movie. So I haven't seen the Mario movie, partly because I didn't have time, and when I got around it,
it's on Peacock now.
Huh?
It's on Peacock.
Yeah, but a lot of people say that it's not a great movie, so I don't.
It wasn't that bad. I liked it.
Yeah. But this I could recommend to parents and families, and especially parents and families who complained about the Barbie movie not being a child's movie, even though they never advertised that as a child's movie. But this is definitely a kid's movie, but a kid's movie that won't annoy parents. You definitely go out and see it. I mean, like I said, you won't have a transcendent experience, in my opinion. But I think you'll have a fun experience. It's something you can rewatch as well. If your kids decide this is their favorite movie and they can rewatch it over and over. Besides the Seth Rogen stuff that goes over the line, or gross out stuff, you could rewatch this over and over again. It'd be fine. And it'd also be interesting to watch as well, because like the art direction on this is really interesting and beautiful in places. So yeah. Mm-hmm. So how would you rate this?
I think I'll give a solid 8. I think that 7 would be a little too harsh, because I do believe that there are certain things that they were experimenting, that they were trying. Some of it hit, some of it did not for me, because I think that for me is because I'm of a different generation, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine. And I think you're right, Nathan, is that it is a very kid-friendly movie. rather than like Barbie, which is not really that kid friendly.
I mean,
So I saw a lot of.
I think as
Yeah,
we said when we reviewed Barbie, you can take your kids after like 10
yeah,
and
right.
above, but you still might have to explain some things.
Yeah.
It's not, and people are on complaining about that online. I mean, this is a little bit of a detour, but like it never was advertised as a kids movie. It was PG-13, but whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's definitely some. I mean, I saw a lot of kids at the theater
Mm-hmm.
when I saw it when I saw it in the afternoon yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely family fun. Bring the kids. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And also I think it does bring a good message. A lot of Seth Rogen films, it does kind of like have that underlying message. Judd Apatow does the same thing. There's some
Mm-hmm.
underlying, besides all the humor and all the gross out stuff, there is an underlying message that's there. So for that, I give it an 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I give it an 8 as well, which is our road trip. A film that it's a good. It's worth going to the theater. I think at this point, and I've mentioned in previous reviews that we at least I think everyone else are aware of the post COVID viewing environment. So. If you have kids, I think this would be a really good movie to go and see. And I don't think there are
Yes.
any other kids movies out right now. And if you want to take your kids to the
Not really.
movies, if you want to take your kids to the movies, I think this is the movie. Besides Into the Across the Spider Verse, which is losing theaters because all these other
Hmm.
things have come out. Like it's like in its eighth week.
Hmm.
Besides Across the Spider Verse, this is the new kids movie that I think you could take your kids to see, and you'll have a good time as well.
Yeah,
So yeah, I
absolutely.
think I give it a road trip as well. All right, I guess we can start talking about it a little. We're not gonna break down the entire movie. It
Yeah.
came out yesterday, so I guess we're not spoiling too much. But what we can do is start talking about some of the things that you didn't like because of the original thing, but because of your originalist kind of
Mhm.
attachment to the '90s
Yeah.
cartoon. But before we do that, if you're enjoying the conversation, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you can only do one, please like the video because that makes the YouTube algorithm very happy.
Yeah.
And with that, spoilers ahead. All right. So you were talking about Splinter. What?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I like the original background of it. For those of you that are not familiar, okay, so well, there's kind of like a couple of versions. Like from the movie, it was because he was the pet rat of Hamato Yoshi, whereas in the cartoon version, is Hamato Yoshi becomes Splinter, through the ooze.
Yeah.
So in this one, yes, he does
And when you say the movie, you mean the
the 90s,
the
the first
'90s live action movie. Yeah, yeah,
line.
yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
So there's some different iterations. In this one, yes, he is exposed to the ooze as well, and then he gets up. But I think that they kind of made him much more of a father figure, which is fine. This is very in line with the rest of the material that's been out there about him
Mm-hmm.
being the father figure and stuff. But I think that he became more of I think that it spoke to kind of like this generation of how to treat fatherhood in some ways, because it's like you're almost like you're learning fatherhood, or like martial arts through YouTube and
Yes,
videos.
yes,
So it's like
yes,
so it's like
yes. It
I'm
did.
just like instead of like just actual practical things of like learning the way it was back in the 90s. No, you actually have to rely on YouTube videos and martial art films, like if you're Quentin Tarantino, to like become a expert martial artist. So that's
Yeah,
kind of like, for me, I'm like, maybe I'm just old fashioned. Maybe that's just how fatherhood is now.
yeah,
I don't know, but I don't know. What do you think? Because you're a dad, so
yeah. It's like I didn't bump up against it too much because you gotta think about the beginning of the movie. The beginning of the movie had a backstory already. So it had a backstory with Baxter Stockman. Okay, so that's
Yes.
already changing things, kind of putting him in the as the catalyst that starts everything. And Baxter
Yeah.
Stockman sometimes is. I think he is in the Michael Bay movie. Is he played by
Remember who he played by?
the guy who plays Medea?
Oh, Tyler Perry?
Tyler Perry.
Really?
Yeah, I
He
think
was Tyler Perry was. Oh yeah, I think he was.
I think he was. Yeah,
Oh
in
my
the movie.
gosh.
So you have that backstory. Then you sort of have a backstory already with the turtles when we meet the turtles and they come home late. You have a backstory about how they turn into things, and then you would have to have another backstory about like either him being a rat who was in Japan, who was able to learn martial arts even though he wasn't a mutant, or a backstory about a guy who was so like it's fine. I mean, I prefer the original one, but I can understand why they truncated it, and also I think this is also, like I was saying, the Seth Meyerification of this is kind of like you wanted to make it a joke, and it's kind of a joke that he ate cockroaches, and he was kind of like a rat that was afraid of humans. So that also making him so afraid of humans and having him have such a bad time before the ooze hit him also feeds into his character development over the movie.
Agreed.
So I can understand why they make those changes so that he has a bit of an arc in this movie as well.
Mm-hmm.
But they have to explain how he's going to be how he teaches them karate if he's just a regular street rat, which is why they had the YouTube videos
With
in the movies too. Yeah, so it's not just YouTube videos. He also watched a bunch of 80s martial arts films as well. So
sorry, Jackie Chan.
Yes,
It's just kind of
yes,
like a meta joke by Seth Rogen, most likely. Church Eye, hey, that guy. Who's that guy? Is that you? Yeah, it's too. It was too unreal. And I mean, some people might enjoy that meta reference. Some people don't. I mean, I kind of got a kick out of it. But I mean, like I said, I think that for me, it's just I am maybe old fashioned because of it. So but I didn't really mind it that much. But it's just different.
I think they did a bunch of things with Splinter was gross out humor, Seth Rogen and stuff, like him falling in love with
Scumbug.
With Scumbug at the end, him just being a crotchety old man. But they gave him a really good fight sequence when he saved them, though. Like you could see that he was actually perfecting the art so he could teach them. So he's been learning just as long as they have, but like he took on like a whole army of guys, and they were surrounded. They weren't able to do that. And they also did it in a comedic sort of Jackie Chan way as well, because he was using the environment. He was using the environment, and he was always like, he was also like, like he was, because he's old. It was a good scene. It was a good scene for Splinter.
Yeah, he was basically he's trying to Jackie Chan everything. I mean, the other thing that it reminded me of, actually, in terms of the more character development you're talking about, is Marlin from Finding Nemo. I think that it really reminded me. Yeah. That movie is really, really great as well in terms of talking about father and son relationships. I mean, I think also, looking back on it, the first film really touched me very, very much in terms of how, the live action 1990 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles taught me all I needed to know about fatherhood. That whole movie taught me everything I needed to know about being a father. It was really well done, really beautifully well done. I don't think anything has matched that in my book in terms of like how to do fatherhood, but this is not bad. This is not a
the Splinter know how to do fatherhood.
But also in general, I think that Despicable Me has done a pretty good job as well. But I mean, that to me is like definitive. Like, if you want to know how to be a dad, like you don't know how to be a dad, you watch that film. Some of the more quieter, subtle moments, you can definitely have some lessons learned from
I
it.
don't remember that movie that well, but I'd have to think about like the best
Oh, it's
dad
really good.
fatherhood movie. That maybe we'll make another video about that. But yeah, I like I said, I didn't mind it as much, and I understood what they were trying to do because of like this is also it's a feature length movie, but it's a feature length kids movie, so they weren't trying to like spend too much of your time. So like I said, with too many backstories or side stories, so I appreciated that the way that they set him up because it gives him a more definitive arc in the movie.
Yeah, I agree.
The super Ice Cube does an okay job with as Superfly.
Superfly.
He's psychotic all the way through the movie and never really changes.
Yeah.
But like I guess you sort of see where that comes from the beginning. Like he was the most developed one. He was the one who Baxter was talking to. So he's basically took on his father's ideology of trying to get accepted.
Right.
And he had and they also showed they speaking of backstories, they also showed a backstory of them. They did a very similar thing that Splinter did. He tried to go out in the world, and they were feared. And the only difference is that Splinter ran away, and Superfly says that he beat the guy down instead of running away.
Yeah. So, like I said, this whole movie is about acceptance in a lot of ways, and I think that's something of course, is borrowed from the X-Men as well. But it's borrowed from a lot of different things. But but I think that it has a very, very good message, about being accepted. Overall.
Yeah, and it's not just again, and because it's a kids movie, it's not just Superfly's or Splinter's or the Turtles arc. It's also April's arc as well. She's trying to be accepted. So
yes, that's true too. That was very good. That was actually very good, kind of weaving into this whole acceptance piece of the story.
Yeah, and I appreciate I appreciated a lot of her characterization, except for like I said, I feel like her throwing up in the flashback was fine, but of course, because of Seth Rogen, she had to throw up a little bit when she was at the end of the movie as well, because he finds a thing. I think he finds those things funny, and it's like sophomore humor, like teenage humor. It's like okay, I think it would have been a better scene if she had like overcome her thing, and she just like pushed through it and she didn't throw up, but whatever. He wanted to laugh there.
But wouldn't that be very cliche though, Nathan? It's like that would be the cliche move to do. That would be the movie cliche.
Sure, but like you could also say that she's running on adrenaline. She's grown quite a bit since the time that it was just school announcements. There's actually something at stake here. So sure. maybe she puts aside how she's feeling and just does the thing. It's not necessarily cliche. It's how humans sometimes work when they don't have to work, when they're not in their head. I mean, why would she be in her head about like trying to help her friends? But whatever. It's that's like I said, those minor touches are, like I said, roll my eyes kind of annoyances.
But I would say that puking, lets out. It's almost like you releasing the tension in some ways.
Sure.
I've seen that happen in the past with some prom. I don't know if it's like, I remember a prominent football player that puked, and then right afterwards, like, had a great game
there's some performers who are like professional performers, like stage actors or like actors who throw up before they perform, and they are professionals, and I understand that. I didn't need it there because there was so much. It's like when the gag was funny enough, and then it went a little bit too long when it first happened. Like she threw up, and then she kept throwing up all over the place. It's like, okay, I think yeah. So like anyway, but beyond that, like there was also, of course, the gross out of him and Splinter, scumbag.
But I mean, that's kind of like with any parent, right? It's like parents being romantic to each other. I mean,
no, but they specifically they could have paired Splinter with Leatherhead, because I didn't know Leatherhead was a woman. They could have paired him with Wingnut, which is closer to his species, but they specifically paired him with what you call it, for the gross factor, because again, sophomoric humor. So anyway, but like I said, I mostly enjoyed the movie. Like even when I rolled my eyes, I was like, this is probably a Seth Rogen executive producer insert here in the script.
I mean, they also made fun of themselves when Superfly became like a giant monster, a giant kaiju, another kaiju movie. It's like, well, and then they kind of like put in the pop culture references, Attack on Titan and all that. And I think that's still pretty creative stuff. I mean, it's not, I'm not like really into the culture right now, because I'm far removed from that culture, but I get it.
And even how they characterize the different how they characterize the different turtles, like Donnie, when they visited the high school and he saw the graffiti about the anime, and he was like, I feel more seen than I ever have before, because he's like whatchamacallit. So I actually and I appreciate how they draw him here with glasses as well. Sometimes they do that in the there's been, like we said, many different variations of this. Sometimes they do that, but I appreciate that. And also he had a bit of a fanny pack as well. So this is like these are like Neo versions of all of them. So he's not like the science dude, but he's gonna find his people at the end. He's in college. He's in high school. He's gonna become more nerdy, more of a science guy. They even gave them the pizza truck at one point. Yep. He'll if they get a sequel, you'll see him trick out that truck. So this is like, the only thing they don't do, they do here that I haven't seen other iterations, is that they're accepted by the city and they get to go to school as regular kids, and which is a new interesting wrinkle. Like I said, I haven't seen all the iterations. Yeah. Maybe they do this in one of the cartoon movies, shows rather.
Yeah, so. I think that they're still kind of preteen. They're tweens basically, almost.
Yeah, they're freshmen.
Like freshmen in high school type of thing. But I'm very curious to kind of figure out, especially for Raphael, because Raphael is considered the tough guy with a lot of anger issues. Mm-hmm. What triggers him to be that angry about things? Maybe it's just teenage hormones. Maybe it is. Maybe they can explain it away with teenage hormones. But I'm curious to find out whether or not there's going to be some type of trauma that's going to be associated with him that's going to lead him to being who he is.
They don't necessarily have to characterize him in the same way. I think that what they try to do in this movie is say that he just has a lot of energy, and he was waiting to like unleash it. So this is like the coolest thing that ever for him, that he's had all this pent up like energy, and he's always wanted to unleash it, and he got to unleash it. Like you can see even in the way that they animated his fighting, like he did the ninja moves, but he was mostly like body slamming people and just like and like using his body to like crush people. So yeah. So I guess they don't necessarily have to make him as angsty, and it would still work. He would just be the muscle basically of the team.
Understood.
So yeah.
So kind of like more like Wrecker from Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Rather than kind of like the more brooding, angry.
Yeah. So like they made him super. Like I don't remember in the cartoon in the 80s that he was ever that broody as he was in the movies. So they're different. There've been different interpretations. So he doesn't have to be as broody as in the 90s movie. So
he was more, in the cartoon, he was more of a wisecracking, a-hole basically.
Yeah. All right. Any other thoughts before we wrap up?
No, that's pretty much it. One other thing about the plot. The plot is very similar to the. If you ever watched Batman versus Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's on Amazon.
I have not seen that.
It's pretty much the same plot. It's pretty much the same plot.
Does it have all Does it have all the same mutants?
No.
Okay.
Basically, it does not have the same mutants, but the plot is pretty much the same thing.
Okay.
so yeah, the plot in terms of like the plan, the evil plan, is pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, so actually, before we close out, we didn't talk about the TCRI, which is the organization that Utrom was in charge of, and then the mid credit scene. The mid credit scene shows potential. So she calls up Shredder.
Yes.
She's like finding them is going to be more difficult than containing them. Techno Cosmic Research Institute. So I guess if they get a sequel, we'll see Shredder, and then maybe we'll see Crane and some of the other weird things.
Yeah, we might. So I mean, they've done it in live action before. They've done it a couple of times. So we'll see how far it goes down in terms of the mythology.
After they get a sequel, I feel like
games,
Barbie is still going to have a lot of people trying to go out to it this weekend. Maybe they can overcome it. We'll see. Yeah, is this something new? Barbie has been in the theater for the last couple weeks. We recommend it. We also recommended Barbie though, so like I can tell. So well, if you have kids, go see this. But
you'll see this if you have kids. Don't go see Barbie for them. Yeah. Barbie's for tweens, and above, teenagers and above. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so that's what I think. So that's what we think, but we want to hear what you guys think. So please comment down below, like, share, and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.